Hey everybody, it's Rajesh here.
And Tane here.
Welcome to our podcast, Baskets of Knowledge, Chats with a Difference. In our podcast, we invite guests from around the country and around the world to talk about how they got to where they're at the moment. It's about a journey, it's about an experience, it's about their life. Good, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Baskets of Knowledge. This one is a little bit different because this is the last podcast for 2022. Tane, how are you going as the year wraps up?
Yeah, I'm going well. I've actually come back home to Taranaki, which has been good. Good time to reflect. It's taken a bit of readjustment to try and weave in with my family's life again after being away for so long, obviously. But it's been good now that my little sister and mum have school off and dad's got the week off this week. So it's been good just to reconnect with everyone and see how everyone's going.
Yeah, awesome. It's great to have to reflect. But also for our listeners out there, this is also a pretty special time for you because a few weeks ago you graduated. So congratulations. And how was that for you? If we talk about reflection, it was a pretty special moment for you inviting me to come along to the Māori pre-grad and listening to you speak there. As you now digest, the Māori pre-grad, the actual ceremony, how do you reflect the last 3 years have gone by? If I said to you when I saw you first in year 11 or year 12 and said to you, it'll be done in the blink of an eye, what would you have said to me?
Oh, it's gone crazily fast. I seen somebody in town the other day, and he's just finished high school, so he was 3 or 4 years. Oh, he must have been year 10 when I was in year 13. So he was just starting, and now he's finished high school. And so reflecting with him, that's what I said to him. It feels like yesterday when I was making those decisions of do I go to Otago, do I go to Auckland, where do I go, what do I want to study, and now to finish it, it's a crazy reflection to actually think that I've done it. And I guess those 2 days of reflection, it can be taxing. It's a lot of energy to congratulate everyone and also let everybody else congratulate you, because I think that's something you often forget, is we always want to congratulate other people on their successes, but then to have all these different people say, oh, congratulations, oh, what are you doing next? And sometimes you've just got to take that all. But the 2 days were really nice to especially have Nana and Mum down to reflect with me. But I guess, yeah, just taking it all in, it was an amazing experience. And that's the end goal, that's what you want to achieve. But I said, as much as it was great, I said probably the most boring part was the ceremony. You think that's going to be your 10 seconds of fame and shake hands with the chancellor and you finally get the piece of paper, but it wasn't about that. It was about taking photos with family, taking photos with friends, acknowledging that they've achieved it, they've been there through my whole journey. And so that was the most rewarding part, as it was for Māori pre-grad, to actually stand up, say thank you to the people that I wanted to say thank you to, and just be able to reflect in a way that you can't really in the actual ceremony. So plenty of reflection, plenty of accomplishment, but also, yeah, just an amazing achievement that sometimes you don't realize how big it is until the moment arises.
Yeah, and you have the reflection happening, but it's also we get lost in the actual. We've got to celebrate. It's actually a big monumental occasion for you and for others that are graduating, and it's a pity that the actual ceremony is really quite boring. But like you said, it's not about the ceremony. The ceremony is the formal side, but the actual acknowledgement and celebration is the pre, the during, before you get into the stage, and also I guess after, and then it all sinks in, and now you're like, oh, okay, that's gone, that's finished, I've accomplished that, tick the box. What's next? And I think a lot of I saw someone at the graduation and they were panicking about what's happening next. They were stressed about, okay, what happens next, instead of enjoying the actual moment. And I had to say, hey, just chill, just calm down. Tomorrow is going to come no matter what. Let's just enjoy today. And I guess that happens in all things in our lives. When you accomplish a goal, we so quickly chase the next goal that we forget to celebrate the goal that we have achieved. So I'm really glad that you got to celebrate that with your mum and your nana, because that's pretty special. But let's also think about your actual journey. So that was the end point. I mean, your actual journey of, we've spoken about this many times on this podcast here, but the journey of a young person leaving Taranaki, now completing Otago, where you now dwell in a place that where actually is my home, because you've now spent so much time in Dunedin. And yes, you spent a lot of time in Taranaki, but these are your formative years now when you're actually living by yourself, learning about yourself. As you think about that, what does that show you about yourself as a person? What are the big learnings you've had?
Oh, I guess probably the biggest takeaway reflecting on that is I think I told you, during the middle of the year when I came back, it was the first time where I came back and it didn't really feel like home, in the sense that, families moved on. They're still doing their things with school and work, and my brother's working now that he's finished high school as well. So to come back, it felt like I didn't really belong in every sense of the word. I was here, but they've got their lives to go to, and then it was kind of, oh, we'll do something in the night or the evening, and so it didn't really feel like home. But I think coming back now, what I reflect on is that, yes, it's, this is where I've grown up, and it's always going to be an important place to me, and I love, sharing experiences with people, but also telling people about Taranaki and the amazing place it is. But at the same time, as many of my peers reflect, a few of which who have stayed here, it's an amazing place to grow up in because of the nature and the people and the community, but it's not somewhere you really go if you want to, especially between those 20 to 30 is probably where you want to go out and expand and, create your own world. And that's what I've done in Dunedin. And I think also reflecting on my time in Dunedin, it's just been, I guess my biggest learning has been just to try everything that's available, and not in the sense where you do it just because it's going to look good on your CV or it's going to help you get to a certain place, but just because you enjoy it. And that's been something that I've really taken a while to get used to, but also just being like, okay, cool, I just enjoy this. I can't explain why I enjoy it. I can't say, I'm not getting anything in particular out of it that's going to benefit me long term, but right now I'm getting enjoyment. And whether that was volunteering for a couple of hours and spending time with children, or whether it was being an RA at the Hall, whatever opportunities I took, it was just being able to go, okay, I enjoy this, and that's all I have to do at the moment. And I think that's something that, especially when you're starting that journey, you're like, okay, this is going to lead me to a good job, or is going to lead me to travel, or is going to lead me to research, whatever it might be, that you don't actually, when you're first going to university, you don't look at it as these are going to be some amazing years and I should just sit in that moment. And I think when I look back, I'm able to say that I did spend a lot of my time just sitting in those moments and going, I'm enjoying this and that's all I need to do. Yes, there were times where I was like, oh, I wish I was doing more, or I wish my grades were better, but everybody has those worries. And so it's about being able to sit there and go, okay, let's just enjoy the moment and let's just enjoy the time. So that's probably my biggest learning. And I think other than that, it's just understanding that, I think my other thing was learning that I am capable of doing all these amazing things that other people have done. I've seen, even just through the guests in the podcast, who have done some amazing achievements. I mean, I look at Lockie, and he's gone over to Oxford now and he's doing these amazing things. And, it's easy to go, oh, well, I'm not doing that, so there are people better than me. But there's other opportunities that I've taken up that he might not have, and might look at and go, oh, that's amazing that you're doing this, So being able to reflect and go, okay, it's awesome that I'm just doing things that I'm enjoying and that I want to be my own achievements, because I think otherwise you're always striving to be this different person or another person, and you're not actually striving to be somebody you want to be. And so that's what I've really taken, is being able to take all those opportunities and go, okay, this is what I've been able to do, and this is what I've enjoyed, and this is what I've loved. And that's been the great part of being in Dunedin, is being supported by so many people around me.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much in there, and what I love about that is just we are programmed in this world to do things for an outcome. Do this so it's going to get you a better job. Do this, it's going to get you whatever it is, get you some better money, better this, better that. So we tune to go, why are you doing this here? Because of that there. But sometimes we just have to do stuff just because we enjoy it. I just want to enjoy it and not feel any guilt. Because I think this is the problem. We go, right, cool. Why are you doing this for a certain goal? Oh, okay, cool. Not doing that there. Where you do something and then people make you feel guilty for doing that, or you have self-guilt, I should be doing X, Y, Z. And it's really important for us all, just to sit, like you said, sit in the moment and actually just enjoy the moment and go, hey, I'm just enjoying it for no other reason but just enjoyment. That's it. That's important. And the other thing that I want to talk about quickly is how you spoke about success. It's quite funny because just before we jumped on the podcast, I said to you I was doing a bit of writing, and I'm actually writing a little book called Success, about, and I've got about 10 chapters or so, with one of my co-authors. And one of the chapters I wrote about today was what actually is success. And a lot of the times success is defined externally. We use, like you said before, if you just look at Lockie independently and go, wow, he's gone to Oxford, wow, that's what success looks like. Or if we look at Melissa and go, oh, she was obviously president, that's what success looks like. Or you look like Owen, who's created a company, oh, that's what success looks like. And if we keep looking at that as success, we're not actually going to find our own success. And, I think what we need to sit down is think about what success means to us. And I don't think any of us do that. We don't sit down and go, cool, what does success look for us? And success could just be, hey, I'm just enjoying today. That's success, right? And one of the motivations that I wrote this book was about, because we just see success as an outward thing that's externally factored. And we forget about why we choose that as success. So, okay, why do you want to be wealthy? Because I don't actually know why we're wealthy. Once you don't know what your why is, nothing happens. So I like how you spoke about, you looked at other people's success and went, all right, cool, that's their success. I'm going to celebrate the success, but it's not going to be my definition of success for me. And I think that's an important learning, not just for you, but also for me, but any of our listeners, that hey, this is a hard thing to do though, because society and the world says success is defined by X, Y. You've got to be rich, healthy, whatever those parameters are, good relationship, tick those boxes there that we have been programmed to do. And that's fine. Some people that works for them, but for a lot of us, that creates stress and anxiety, or a feeling of guilt if we're not achieving that. So if we step away from that, like you said, define your own success and also sit in the moment of just enjoying stuff. I think that's a good way to go. And talking about that, I'm also going to come back to I'm coming back to success. And I think success and has been this podcast. If we go back to 1 year ago, no, about 18 months ago, we started the podcast. And thanks to you and your time to take, you had a busy year, and we still managed to knock out 42 podcasts this year. So I'm going to take this moment just to say thank you to every single guest. I can't list them all, but you know who you are. Thank you for jumping on. Some of you at the last minute, some of you for long-term planning, some of you who have never done a podcast in your lives and were terrified, but you jumped on. It was amazing. Some of you who are experienced speakers who jumped on here to just share the experiences. None of this would happen without you. And when we set out to do this project here, it has grown way bigger than we expected. So thank you to our guests, but also to our listeners. I know there are some listeners out there who listen to our podcast every single week, and I get comments and messages every single week. So we want to thank you, because without you, this doesn't exist. Our goal, I'm going to speak for you, Tane. Our goal is for us to get this podcast out to more people out there, because it's not just about Tanya and myself, it's about the learnings that every single guest brings. And I've learned so much from every single person, and I look back and I think about, wow, that's a different perspective of looking at things. And I think that's what this podcast has shown us, that there's a different perspective to look at the same thing. And there's trials and tribulations through life, and people cross over in a different way. But Tanya, what has the podcast done for you? Yeah, 42 guests this year.
I think probably the biggest thing is just being able to give me a voice, and not so much in the sense that, yes, I can portray my opinions and stuff to everybody else, but just being able to give my own opinion on certain things that come up in the podcast, whether it was the trials that I'd faced, but I'd never really addressed, because sometimes, some of these trials you don't want to talk to your closest mates about, or, you don't want to talk to certain people about it. And so I think it's been a good way for me to just open up and be like, oh yes, I actually do feel passionately about that, and just doing it in a way which is, harmless in terms of, it's not saying that you have to live by this certain way or you have to do these certain things, but just being like, oh, this is what I see, this is my point of view on a certain situation. So it's been really good to be able to just voice my opinions, but also just be able to take in different people's stories. And I think, I don't know how it happens, but every week, whoever the guest is, it always allows me to take something away as well. As much as this has been giving to everybody else and showing them that there's a range of different stories once you move into tertiary or the workforce or whatever it might be, I've also been able to go, oh, that's cool, whether it's been looking into the future on what my career might look like, or what my research next year might shape, or how it might look, or looking back at, people who are in their second year, so a bit before me, but, I've just been through that situation. And so I can reflect on that and go, okay, this is going to be what happens next for them, or understanding that I've actually been through that, because again, we don't, reflect enough to be like, oh, I actually did do all that stuff, because sometimes, it's just on to the next thing, on to the next thing, on to the next thing. And then we go, oh, what about all these amazing things that we've done that we just didn't, acknowledge? So every podcast has given me a different reason to, one, voice my values, but also being able to go, oh, yep, that is what I'm doing. This is what I could do. So it's always had some point of value for me. And again, I didn't think that it would ever get as big as it is. And even if it does, I think this is just something I enjoy doing each week, is, seeing you, talking to our guests, and just being able to do it each week, which is something, again, it's a platform where we can just speak about whatever comes up. And usually those things that come up, are things that have either been in the back of your mind or something that you've been thinking on for a while, but you've just never had the time or capability to be able to say it. So this has been a good platform to do so too.
Yeah, I think it's been great. I mean, I've learned so much about myself as well. And I have to thank you for doing all the back end editing stuff. And I'd love to get into that next year. We'll talk about that as well. So as we wrap up this podcast and as we wrap up 2022, every week we speak about what are the biggest learnings. If you could take away one learning from you that has just stuck for you through the year, what is that? I know this is pretty hard, but what's a learning for you? We're just reversing the role, asking you the question.
I guess something probably I've reflected on the last couple of weeks, but it's probably been portrayed throughout the year, is I've probably changed my point of view from trying to have these titles or roles or achievements that I'm having, and just looking at myself and going, am I happy? Am I doing something that's making me happy? And if I am, then that's awesome. And if it's not making me happy, why? And, why am I still doing it? Is there a reason? Is it just I'm in a slump at the moment, or is it, long term, this isn't going to benefit me? And that's been a huge change of mindset, because I've always been like, okay, I want to get to this, I want to be a subordinate, I want to be the president of the exec. And that's great to have goals and titles and achievements that you want, but it's also being able to, once you get there, be okay with yourself and asking yourself, am I happy? Am I doing it because I just want the title, or am I doing it because it's actually making me happy? And that's been a huge, as I say, a huge adjustment in my mindset. And, most of the things are making me happy, and the things that don't make me happy, I just readjust and see what I'm doing. A lot of people this year, especially being in the Hull, a lot of people were like, why do you watch so much sport? How do you have time to watch so much sport? But that's what I enjoy. That's what I love. And that's why I study it. But for other people, they can't think of anything worse than sitting down and watching all these different types of sports. But it's no different to, going out and catching up with friends, or going out for a surf every day, or going and playing a musical instrument, or reading, or whatever your hobby might be. So it's been great to just reflect and go, although other people might not see the value that I see in it, doesn't mean that it's not valuable. And I think that's also, with social media and everything else that is around, we often forget why we enjoy it in the first place. And I guess, sports goes before uni and has been through my whole childhood. So, sometimes we can get lost in what we enjoy and what we value, but it's also being able to go, okay, it doesn't matter if nobody else wants to, enjoy these things with me, because I enjoy it, and that's what I'm going to continue enjoying. So that's been my biggest takeaway for the year, for sure.
So if we're going to summarize it, what would that be in a sentence? 10 words. Let's summarize that.
Do what makes you happy.
Yeah, exactly. When it goes back right to what you said before about leaning into happiness as opposed to leaning into a reason. Leaning into happiness is a great way to go, and it's important. And sometimes you have to do these things alone. Sometimes we're so conditioned to have to find other people to do this stuff together. But if you go, actually, wait a minute, I can just enjoy this by myself, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So which is really, really cool. Fantastic. I guess my biggest learning, I'm just asking myself the question. My biggest learning for the year is what does loyalty actually mean? And this is still a learning that I'm going to have, because it's something to be, when you're loyal to something and loyal to someone, but you got to think about why. Are you giving more than you're getting, or are you getting more than you're giving? And this is a question that's been really pondering me over the last few months. When I think about loyalty towards different places and different things that I've done, and you actually wonder if it's a reciprocal thing. And then when you think about that, you go, right, cool, why am I doing what I'm doing? Is it because I want, like you said before, whether you want acknowledgement for that, or whether you're doing it because you're passionate about it? And that's where a question has come for me about thinking about the effect or the impact of loyalty. So me, as I go into the new year, that's going to be a big question for me. I mean, it's a learning I've had this year, but it's also a question I've just got to keep asking myself, where do I put my loyalty and how does that actually sit? Yeah. Yeah, awesome. So I think this is a great place for us to wrap up the podcast. But before I wrap up the podcast, I'm just going to put a shout out again to all our listeners out there. Hope you all had a fantastic festive season. Hope you are enjoying what you do. Some of you might be with your family and your whānau, some of you might be with friends, some of you might be alone, some of you might be exploring the world, some of you might be working. Whatever you're doing, hopefully you found some time to enjoy and smile, whatever that is, because it's important to look after yourself at this time of the year. I mean, if it's not this time of the year, it could be any time of the year. Don't put pressure for yourself that you have to have a good time at this time of the year, because you can have a good time next week or the following, whenever. Just find the time, like Tana said, to enjoy happiness whenever you are happy. So with that, I guess the two of us at Basel Times would like to say thank you for supporting us for 2022. We look forward to having you on in 2023, when I can promise you we have some pretty amazing guests lined up already. I'm pretty excited for that. Tony, last words from you?
No, just as you say, enjoy your festive time, enjoy your time with family, and whatever stage you're at, it's always good to have New Year's to have time to reflect and to set new goals, but that doesn't mean that you have to push yourself to be this amazing new person, because I think that's something we've learned through this podcast as well, is that being able to change yourself and being able to change the things you do, it doesn't happen overnight. It hasn't happened overnight for any of our guests. It's been something that takes time, and there's always going to be setbacks. There's always going to be challenges, but there's always light at the end of the tunnel as well. So, just take this time, as I say, to reflect and reset, but also to challenge yourself in the ways that challenge you, but without doing it because you feel like you have to, because you can be fine just the way you are, and that's absolutely fine too.
Exactly. And don't forget to laugh and have a good time, because life is too short. All right, with that, thank you everybody, and we'll catch you in the new year. Stay safe, and as always, keep putting something into your basket of knowledge. Bye everybody.
Thank you for listening to Baskets of Knowledge.
Yeah, we hope that you found something useful to put into your basket of knowledge. And as we said before, remember to put something little into your baskets of knowledge every week. And as always, feel free to like, comment, and share this podcast. Thanks, everybody. Bye.